Okay, so let's get started with white boxing and blocking out. So really we want to kind of start with the 2D top down, or the basically the 2D schematic. And the problem obviously is with the 2D schematic is that if you've just got a top down, you can't really work out the variance in height. So normally you need to kind of give a pseudo isometric overview, and I've just done a little sketch here stylized of the type of level it is, which is obviously not necessary. But the first thing you want to be designing around is your move set. So I've listed the move set here. So jump up and along, so jump up and forward. So jump up is the distance you jump up directly upward, where you can grab onto ledges and what have you, and along is your forward momentum, jumping with your forward momentum. So we need to know these metrics really, even when we're designing a block out. And just to kind of specify that a block out is really just for spatial evaluation. It's for things like line of sight and for things like objectives, so you can work out if you have a clear orientation point in the level, which in this case I've got a large tower here, which I've put here highest. So you're starting here, and you can see your objective, which also could be illuminated or clearly laid out as the core objective. And you're going to work your way through this level. I'll talk through that in a second. So it can be as simple as this. This I didn't do anything much more complex than this for Tomb Raider. In fact, I probably do things much less complex than this for Tomb Raider. I just drew nice pictures of houses and things. So back to the moveset, shimmy corner, so you can shimmy around a corner. That's a separate animation. That's something that you need to make sure that you're adding. If you're going outer corners, inner corners, this type of thing, you're going to need separate animations. Edge walk, so I think it's got a proper name for it, where you shimmy up against the wall with your back against the wall. This is quite useful as well, because frequently this will lock the camera, so in horror games it'll give you a freak out if something jumps out. Vault and mantle. Vaulting is really kind of jumping through windows, I would suggest. And mantling is kind of just skipping over ledges. So, for instance, Gears of War I would call a mantle, where you jump over the cover. Vaulting is, as I say, something like Silent Hill, where you jump through a window. Crouching, I think we all know what a crouch is. Ladder. So ladders can be used in different ways. Often they're just used from a level design perspective in linking large areas. If you look at things like Dark Souls. Balance beam. We know this one. This sometimes has mechanics where you have to kind of balance your left-right stick to prevent the player from falling off. Zip line, always fun. Doesn't really serve much of a purpose other than getting back to so that you don't have to basically traverse back over a huge amount of the level. And sprint, which is also useful from an enemy perspective. So so from a top-down map design overview, you can see this is super simple. I've just kind of tried to block in areas you can't get over with these walls. Start here on a rooftop, which is here. You're gated here, so that you have to jump over here, so we know the player knows how to jump. Also, if they fall down here, they should be able to find their way back up relatively easily. So it's not it's learning in a safe environment, basically. Then through this tower, you'll do some fiddly things in this tower. You could perhaps put some interesting traversal inside the tower, round the ledge on the outside. You zip line over to a series of buildings over here. So this ledge here could, if we've got a patrolling enemy down here, we can have a little bit of jeopardy, or even perceived jeopardy, if the enemy can shoot up at the player. So this is a little wall here to hide the player from this enemy. So this would be somewhere around here, if you see what I mean, this wall here. Otherwise the enemy could spot them and shoot at them. Something like a crate here we could use as a way of jumping up to a new shimmy. A balance bar here perhaps. So this green line obviously is our critical path. Move along here. This is something I deleted, which was an enemy patrol route, which isn't there anymore, but you could put one there. Along here, so you've got your balance beam here again, so probably do something else here. And then we've got a little stealth section, so you've got a patrolling enemy here marked with a red line showing where they are patrolling, and then you obviously using the simple stealth mechanics or logic. You can, when he's over here, jump down here, then hide over here, then when he's over here or there over here, then you run over to here, and then this is your exit point. So So that's it really, and so we'll move over to UE5, but just what I'm going to do is, if I can just close that. So what I need to do is, if I can open up, yes, so I'm just checking that's actually showing on screen. So yeah, so what we've got here is what we've got from the free from the Fab or the Unity Asset Store or the Asset Store. Prototype starter level. So really I'm going to include this, zip this up into a project, and we'll open this, and this is really going to be useful because this is effectively a test gym, which we'll talk about test gyms after we've done our block out, but this really just means you can see the metrics, and at this stage metrics is important. It's not vital by a long shot, but certainly being able to actually see distances you can jump, and you can expand on this test gym, but it's just the kind of starter. Certainly one of the most useful things from a white boxing or a block out perspective is that you have got a texture here that has some form of metrics on it, so that we can actually kind of get a rough idea of how big things are. Okay, so just before we move into UE5, I just wanted to reinforce that it is quite a common technique to use schematics within level design. So we're designing around the moveset. It's the basic layout, critical path, which is the green line, which is the most direct route through your level. You can put in events, probably not at the schematic stage. And we do need to think about where it's sitting in the game. This is actually an introductory sequence. We're showing the player how to jump, this type of thing, gating them until they've learnt the moveset. Onboarding is what you call it. So and this is actually an industry example from a game which you might be able to work out the title of, one of the worst games ever made, and this is actually my sketch for one of the levels. With the objectives, the high level objectives kind of being the pillars to some degree, and as you can see here, as I've said before, it's quite difficult to do top down. So if we've got a block of flats here, I've broken it down into floors, and this actually became this. This is in Maya from Rouge Warrior. This was somebody accidentally misspelt it within an email, and it became known as Rouge Warrior for most of the game. So this has changed quite drastically from this, but that's kind of what happens as you progress through discussing with your artist, working out how the game changes. The game changed to a degree to more of a contextual stealth game where you contextual moves to dispatch the enemies. And so here's another example used in another game that I created for a vertical slice. This is just showing the events and how you move through the level. It's also got a lot of it has a lot of text with it, which I've cut out, but you can see the main events there. So and going back to really rough kind of examples, this is my sketches for Tomb Raider Chronicles, where I've just kind of combined items to make Iron Cross. So it's just, these are just very early sketches. I mean, this is not a million miles away from what it turned out looking like. I built a little church up on a hill that you can see from the start of the game, and this is kind of my overarching layout of the level. I don't think I actually got to make a windmill in the end. And so this is Heather's schematic for, I believe it's Venice. I could be wrong. But it looks pretty much to me like Venice, but Heather was one of the original Tomb Raider designers, and so these are just examples of really rough sketches. And this is not top down, obviously, but just showing you that it always starts out quite rough. And to give a really clear example of that, here's Toby's actual schematic for one of the Tomb Raider 1 levels, so we can see just how simple that is, and kind of Heather's taken that type of sketch and worked it up into slightly more detail. But so don't get stressed if you can't draw. It just needs to be absolutely simple and basic, so you're starting to get an idea of what you're building for what in this case is a block out. Okay.